I would say that Draconic Mastery is one of those augments where I feel like that can really just define the entire game for you. You know, having the ability to buff up your dragons early on in the game, play around that Nomsy, play around the Shyvana, and then later on in the game you get 3 dragon, I think for free. You just get the Smolder later on in the game. That's just a wonderful I mean like it might be very straightforward, but I think it's a very strong way to play the game.
Yeah, you do need those 60 takedowns to get the smolder, but it's still a very, very fun augment. And we have loaded up into game, and let's see what the portal will be. And it is going to be Anvil Buffet. And this is actually a portal that I very much enjoy because sometimes, you're just missing a key component. And right now, all items will be dropping as component anvils. Yeah, for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with the portal, and it just means that our players here can have some more options to choose from for items to optimize their comps a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that this portal will really allow players to choose their line efficiently and make some good decisions around that, right? Scouting is going to be really important. I think that when you are choosing your line in the early game, you don't really have as much information to go off of because not everybody's items are all going to be on their bench. So it can also pay to be conservative with the opening of your anvils and to slam items that are a little bit flexible because some players really tend to hard commit when they have the ability to choose their components.
I mean, yeah, if for some reason you have basically I don't know, maybe I'm gonna just throw it out there. You get triple multi strikers, so you can just pop your anvils and try to look for some rage blades or a bloodthirster for that Kali or Kassadin. So you do have that end of the spectrum of players who are just hard forcing it, and on the other side you would have people who are just keeping their component anvils until the time that they feel like they have a set comp that they would go for, and only then would choose to use it up. So there's definitely some strategic play happening here.
Yeah, and we called it out before the start of the game. Worth the wait is going to be offered onto one here, but we are going to be going instead with Three's Company. So this is going to offer some more of those 3 cost reroll options to play around.
Hmm. As we're going around, we see wandering trainers is interesting. Something we didn't mention, but it is definitely a very interesting augment, and it can also give you a preset comp that you will have to use. But it is going to be the unified resistance. Is that a no? That's combat bandages. I thought that was a worth the wait, and that is a shapeshifter crest. So, you talked about the Shyvana, and I'm guessing that Duck. Sorry, is that Duck? I think that's Duck. We're going to see him. We're going to see him piloted here for game number one.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. I think slamming the Shojin leads me to wonder what exactly the carry they want to play around later on is going to be. Um, That is totally fine though, because Force Shapeshifter is a very powerful trait to have online in the early game. There's so much HP going on in this board, and Zoe being able to shoot through one unit at a time, I think this is really an efficient way to play the early game. Now, I wonder what Worth the Wait has offered crazy here at this stage of the game. It might be that Blitzcrank, it might be that Jace.
So from what we look at production, if you can hover over if the augment once again, I think that was Jace.
All
Yeah, so
right.
it is. So it is that Jace. Haven't seen Jace 4 yet, but I hear he deals some crazy amounts of damage.
Yeah, that is going to be quite powerful. Sorry for the production difficulties at this stage of the game, but as we move on through stage 2, we are going to be having some interesting fights go on. And now this is a very interesting wandering trainer that we've spotted over on Sand's board. And I think that this is going to lead very powerfully into Karma, even though that line is not as strong as it may have been in the past. I think that it is still going to be very efficient if you are able to play +1 a Chrono and +1 a Witchcraft.
So yeah, the it's going to be even more powerful that if you can get, spatula from the carousel, and maybe even get, witchcraft emblem, because eight eight witchcraft is no joke. And when you have a unit like Karma to just spread around those curses with the witchcraft emblem, it is going to be very, very problematic for anyone who decides to go up against go up against them. We see Three's Company. We see the Real Control having a Mordekaiser, a Swain, and the Nico plus the Zoe. So the Zoe too. So this is a very strong board for stage two, and we already see the Real Control has 20 gold, and sadly no streak yet, but I think they're still on a good track to get to 50 gold.
Yeah, I would agree. Although I think that the difficult thing here is, you've taken Three's Company, you have some of these three cost pairs, such as the Nico, and I think you're setting yourself up for a strong mid game. But what I would wonder is, are we going to have enough power to keep up with the other gold augments as we move on later into the game? And is the line that we've selected after slamming a blue buff going to be strong enough to win out? So I think that's really on the docket for that player to start solving that problem.
Yeah, just jumping off from what you've said, it's a very strong early to mid game augment. So you're definitely going to have to depend a lot on your 3-2 and 4-2 augments to just uh, get a good comp that'll jump you. They'll just jump you, over that threshold that can get you to just a very strong late game comp. So, uh, it's going to be very interesting for the Real Control, unless he pulls off the classic just hit angle, and just manages to 2-star all of those units and has a breeze through stage 3 as well.
Yeah, and now we have the Rage Blade slammed for Duke. I think this is a very powerful early game. Would love to see them level up here just to guarantee or to increase the chances that they'll continue streaking, but they are the only player still sitting at 100 HP, so we know that, the other players have sort of duked it out, and Duke themselves, is in a much more commanding position. As we go into the matchup against Polament, I don't have any particular worries because we see that Polament still has those three anvils on their bench. There's a huge difference in item power here, and I think this Zoe is going to chew through Polament's board.
Yeah, I mean, Jace 2, Elise 2, and the previously mentioned Savannah plus the Zoe 2. So looking at it right there, Duke's board the Zoe does seem to be an item holder for the Duke's board does seem to have the Zoe as the item holder for maybe the Smolder. Well, you can always slam that Spear of Shojin on the Nomzi, and then just give that Rage Blade to Smolder. But Zoe is a very nice item holder. It's usually used to hold items for the Rise. So I'm very much not against this. Zoe is a very strong unit, especially for stage 2. And when you have a Zoe 2 like this to just complement your board, it's just amazing.
Yeah, now over on the other hand, we see Llama playing this Eldritch line. I don't think that Llama is threatening Duke's win streak here. Still would have loved to see them level up. That's totally fine though, because this is going to be a 5 streak, and Llama's in an interesting position, right? I think Eldritch has been an interesting line to play around this patch. Syndra has received some buffs among other units, and I think that, since her dominance at the very start of the set, she has not enjoyed the same level of strength since. But if you did have an early Syndra on this board, I wouldn't be complaining. You could start stacking up the power of her spell and really enjoy some of the benefits that come with it.
Yeah, sadly for Llama, we do not see a Syndra come through yet. However, we can expect all of that to change in the next few rounds, especially once you hit level 5 for him. And hopefully you can get to that 5 Eldritch at stage 3, because that would be extremely interesting for you. As once again, we do apologize. This is not a production issue. This is more of a spectator issue from the client. Hopefully, we get it resolved very quickly. But we can just take stock of the boards right now. We see Duke taking on the Nomzi as well, so you have that dragon and the shapeshifters, and I think this is looking like a very strong board even for stage 3.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think that you might start running into a damage problem when you have this Zoe because she is a very powerful unit with the way this board is being set up earlier on into the game. But I would also say that it's kind of a tough unit to continue to item carry as you move further forward in the game. And now you'll just get to see our faces because there's no more action happening on the TFT board for the time being. We'll get back to the spectator client as soon as possible.
Uh, sad, Sadly, the spectator client has um, has proven to be a little bit difficult. But I think this has been since the implementation. Spectator has been a little bit a little bit wonky, but production has told us that we are back into the game, and the issue has been resolved. And it's interesting because second augments have now dropped.
Yeah, we can see that Duke is still on a very powerful win streak. They were able to acquire that Ionic Spark, and I think things are looking very good for them. Now, over here with the Real Control, I think they're starting to itemize maybe for something like a Karma, maybe for something like a Gwen. That could be very powerful, and they are on a win streak as well. That is going to be, a pretty powerful position to be in, especially if they hit this Nico 2, and they are up against Polament, who I regret to say still has not opened any of their anvils, and as a result, they cannot even hold units on their bench. Please, 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 Polament, make some decisions.
I mean, looking at that board, oh, yeah. Looking at his board is just wow. And he also went for item grab. Sorry, for the grab bag. I forgot the correct name. Now we're going to see some anvils getting opened, and wow. I'm looking at the tier maybe just for that Hui. Have Hui be your carry for stage 3, which I'm not opposed to. I think Hui is a very decent unit, especially with the buffs he received now in this last patch. So I think there are some options for polymers, especially you have the Hui, you have the Cogma too to help you out as well. So I'm I'm very interested to see what's going to happen to their board. Uh, Sadly, the the client is let's say being difficult with us.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit finicky. I haven't run into this problem before, but when you are spectating on the league client, you never know what's going to happen. So I think to go back to Poloman's spot, I would like to see them play around that way. I think that combat bandages is a very powerful augment for the frost trait in general because your frost units will get more powerful by being healed up by that augment, right? But I think that at the same time, really you need to start turning this game around. You've bled a lot of HP, and I don't even think Pullman's econ is looking all that strong. So you're really going to need to start dominating the mid game, or else things might look bad very, very quickly.
And we're already seeing we're seeing Parliament. I guess he probably heard you, even though there is a spectator delay. So he itemized the Rumble, which I don't think is a bad option. Like we said, Rumble is still a very good unit, deals a lot of damage, and Rumble seems to be an item holder for. I'm thinking Diola because those look like very much like Olaf items or maybe fewer items. So I'm going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see which forecast he eventually chooses to go for. Uh, but yeah, he has a strong board. There are some interesting things going on with this board as well. So it's going to be very nice to see how it develops.
I would agree with you there. Now, the Real Control has been on a win streak and hasn't seen Duke for a little bit. I believe they're both still very strong at this stage, and I am very interested to see whether they are going to match up in one of these two upcoming stages, because that could really determine who has the more advantageous position going into stage 4. Now, as I wished for, they are going to be matching up, and the Real Control on their side, they were able to level up to level 7. They were able to upgrade that Nico too, and she is doing wonders in that front line as she transforms, as she dishes out that stun. The Dragon's Claw on the Shyvana is not going to last all that long because Zoe is shredding the magic resist, but the same can be said over on the other side because these boards look awfully similar. Now it's going to be backline versus backline, and the Zoe for the Real Control is going to be the first one to fall. So Duke keeps their win streak. The Real Control, despite leveling up, not quite strong enough to take down Duke's win streak.
Sadly, the shapeshifter Zoe has a little bit of that extra HP, and it's a little bit more tanky. So it is going to be a little bit more durable than the Zoe for the Real Control. But it is still going to be a very close fight, and the Real Control still clings on to second place. And yeah, I'm glad production put us over here because we haven't talked a lot about Crazy's board. We already see that Jay's being itemized, and we're not too far off the second Jay's 3. So we're missing 12 copies of Jay's for that famous 4-star Jay, and Jay's being into the game.
Yeah, so many players playing around the shapeshifters here. I do think this Jace is doing a ton of work in the front line, takes down the Nico like no problem, and Crazy seems well on their way to a productive stage 4 as they play around the portal trait. They have 5 in right now, and they are going to be getting to 6 as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, we are basically, you have the Galio, you have the Cassidy, and you have the Ezreal. So all you're missing is that Rise or the Taric, and once you get to that 6 portal, it is going to be very good for him. Maybe if you get even a portal emblem as your last augment, you can just try to go for that 8 portal and get a shapeshifter in to help out Chase. Maybe something like the Nasus, who we know can be very strong in the late game to just help out any and all boards.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And you can see that Crazy also opted into balanced budget. They kept their econ extremely powerful through the mid game, and now I think they're looking at a late game that sees them go to level 9 and really cap out very highly around this portal board. I think one of the big struggles could come here in stage 4, where I don't know how much they want to roll on level 8, but we'll see how things go.
I mean, I think a level 8 roll down is not the worst thing that you can do with this board, but if you're on a win streak, I think you have, because you have that strong Jace, you have the Zoe 2 to help out the board. You could potentially just greed it out a little bit, especially because of balanced budget. You have all of that extra economy. You could definitely go for the level up on level 9 and just try to hit the level 9 board. But it's going to be interesting to see if Crazy just goes all out, or tries to do something a little bit more conservative. And the last augments are coming in, and it is a prismatic augment.
Yeah, and here with new recruit, I think it could make a little bit more sense to start rolling down on level 8 if you happen to find some units that you like. And a shapeshifter emblem is going to come out of that charm. Wow, that's a bit of a high roll, I would say.
Definitely a bit of a high roll. Ooh, we see the Call to Chaos from the Real Control, and they got the training dummies with the Zeke's Herald, which honestly very interesting. Not usually what you would get for what you would want to get with that mostly frontline board, but it's still very fun to see. But from what we could see, I think a few people managed to get new recruit in as their last augment, which I'm not opposed to. New recruit is a very strong augment right now.
Yeah, Call to Chaos on both sides here. You can see the Eldritch version of Karma going up against this sort of traditional version of Karma. And just by a hair, Gwen and Karma over on the blue side, over on the Observer side, is going to take that victory. And we can see these one costs are still duking it out in stage 4. Duke's win streak is finally going to come to an end as Smolder proves to be just a little bit stronger.
I believe that's Nomsy, not Smolder.
Oh yeah.
uh,
It might want to be a Smolder later.
Yeah, definitely going to be a Smolder a little bit later on, but no Mr. 100 game for Duke. But looking at Christopher's board, it is another shapeshifter board, but we're seeing a little bit of a mix with the Frostrate, which a little bit unorthodox, but also extremely understandable once you because you have that Nomsy, you have that Olaf to help you out, and the early Diana for Christopher, and also look at that economy. Like, Christopher is on track to get to level 9 right after this carousel and still have 50 gold left over.
Yeah, and I think they're being a little bit greedy, but that's acceptable in this situation, right? Christopher has 50 HP after this fight, but they're going to be able to level up to level 9 and have 50 gold left over to roll. And they're in a good position to start playing around powerful late game units like the Briar and like the Smolder.
I mean, yeah, you're going to be level 9. You have some very good Smolder items. I know a few people in this lobby are going to be fighting over that Smolder, so it's going to be Wiggler that's going to grab it, but still, it's you are level 9 as Christopher. I think he's going to be the only one to go to level 9 after Carousel, so you're going to have that little bit of an advantage, and you're going to be front, right, and center and first pick of the 5 costs, which we already see the Briar coming in. We're seeing the Smolder, so this is turning into a very interesting late game board.
I am with you there. I think that as soon as they stabilize, they can start doing a ton of work here in this late game. But at the same time, I've seen these late game boards, like, they need to be optimized a little bit more than they currently are here. That's what I would say about this, because you're feeding the Briar, you've got the Smolder online, but this board can get a little stronger if you eventually move out of Dragons and opt into a more powerful late game trait, such as Arcana or such as Preservers. At the same time, though, over on the other side, I am having a hard time making out their name. San over there does seem to have that 8 Witchcraft activated, or at the very least, they have +2 to Witchcraft, so that is going to be a powerful contender for the late game if they can hit their units. All I gotta say about this lobby is that there are a ton of people indexing into Karma, into the Warriors, and that could prove to be difficult for a lot of them as they struggle to find upgrades for their level 8 boards.
Yeah, so that looks like it is Sanshiki. Just rolls right out of the tongue. Well, yeah, looking at it, this is going to be a frost board at the end for Parliament. We were wondering about where he would go with this board, and it looks like it's just going to be the Olaf. Has the champion duplicator sitting on the bench, so I think they're waiting to see if they're going to hit the Diana 2 or the Olaf 2 first, so they can just use the duplicator on the other one, which very smart decision. But they have to be careful because Polymist might just be getting so close, 1 HP. I think that roll down has to happen right after these Raptors because that was dangerously close to Parliament getting eliminated.
Yeah, this is a difficult spot to play, right? I think that when you have been a little bit behind in econ, when you have been a little bit behind on HP, you can end up in a situation like this. But there are still tools left for Pullman to work with. If they hit either of Olaf or Diana, they're going to be able to use the duplicator on the other one, and I think this item buffet is going to offer them some opportunities to make powerful items either for the backline when they maybe find a unit stronger than a Twitch one, or maybe for the front line as you go into a powerful item for Diana. Now, this is going to be an important turn. I need to see Pullman make some decisions because there's going to be a charm you got to buy, there's going to be anvils you have to pop, and units you have to upgrade. But Pullman doesn't seem quite so interested in doing that. They might be scouting, they might be positioning, and now they're going to start making those decisions. Olaf is going to be upgraded. Will the Diana come into the shop? She will. And I think that we are looking at the very least a little bit stronger than we were a second ago.
And I mean, I think you're just looking at some, yeah, like you said, some Diana items. You want her to grab to be a little bit more powerful than she is because Diana, while she doesn't have too much strength in her ability, she does have that crazy AoE that can basically delete any backline, especially if you got your backline a little bit clumped up. And you're going to see here the healing is coming in, the damage is coming in, and is it going to be enough? Yes, it looks like it's going to be enough to defeat the board from the real control. And yeah, like you said, you need to have that roll down. You need to hit those 2 stars. And what happened? Parliament hit those 2 stars, and he gets to live another day.
Yeah, and like we were saying, some of these karma boards seem to be struggling a little bit. We saw in that fight that Pullman's Olaf, which was positioned in the second row on that farthest left side tile, uh, that Olaf was able to find his way all the way into the backline and took down Karma really early on into the fight. Here, on the other hand, we see Duke playing around with these shapeshifters and playing around with the blasters again. They're on their way to level 9, but I would point out that there are a few players like Christopher and like Llama who have already found Briar 2 and a couple copies of Smolder, so that could be really difficult to play as we move on. Now we have the matchup against Sanshiki, and the Karma and the Chrono effect. This is a lot to deal with for the Blaster board.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a less optimized board once you take a look at it because there's a Fiora 2 on the other end. There's a Karma. There's a Vex coming in that's beating everyone. And oh wow, Parliament is going to get eliminated by this board from Christopher. And I mean, it's a little bit sad because they hit a lot of upgrades, but Christopher just had that great decon, just managed to level up so much so early on, and it has virtually the late game version of the shapeshifter dragon board with that double rage blade smolder just destroying everything in its path.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker for Parliament, but I think that, you know, having a different path in the early game could have solved some of those problems as you head into the late game. As we see, Christopher is now going up against Duke's board, and I think Duke did finally level up to 9, but I don't know if they were able to find the Smolder here. So we are going to have the Briar and a Smolder against a board that wants to have a Smolder but has a Nomsy. And we can see the difference in these two boards as Smolder on Christopher's side is scaling up with a double Rage Blade. The front line is still standing up strong, and Duke, unfortunately, might be beaten at their own game by someone who got a ton of power in terms of EXP and levels through their augments, through patient study, and through the call to chaos.
And yeah, I mean, this is Duke for a long time. Was the lobby leader. I was wondering whether he would pull off a Mr. 100 game here, but sadly he has not hit the Briar. He has not hit the Smolder, so he can't go for this late game board. Meanwhile, everyone else around him is hitting these crazy upgrades and late game boards. So it's really, it's really heartbreaking to see. But this is a very interesting board. This is a callback to a few patches ago, where the frontline Ezreal would be coming in, allowing for those backline blasters to just scale up and do a lot. But Wiggler sadly has not managed to hit the 3-star Ezreal, which would be the optimal version of this board. But does, however, have some 2-stars. The Varus, the Tom Kench is level 1, but you do have the Hecarim, and the Hui 3 is going to be the unit I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be looking at Hui for that long.
Nah.
Unfortunately for Wiglor, they can cook, but they've also been chopped. Down here in 7th place, it's a tough way to go out, but when you see the power of some of the boards in this lobby, you can't even be all that surprised, because there are players who hit 2-star 5 costs on level 8. There are players who have, like Llama, at level 9 with this Briar 2 upgraded, and now with the Karma as well. This is going to be a ton of power here in the late game.
I mean, you have a Karma 2, you have a Briar 2, you have an Eldritch Emblem, and you have Arcana coming in. So, this is a very scary board. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a very scary board, and I mean, Llama could definitely go into the late, and do a lot, as we see Duke's board now going up against it, and Duke has somehow managed to hit a Briar 2.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of power over for Duke because they were finally able to get 8 Shapeshifter online, so the Eldritch frontline is falling very quickly, the Smolder is scaling up in the backline, and unfortunately for Llama, despite hitting that Briar 2 very early on, I think they struggled to make a board that would contest the legendary power of some of the other players here. And I'm glad to see Duke figure it out and stabilize in such a way that they were able to secure a top 4. Now it's going to be Christopher. I think the most powerful players in the lobby here are Christopher and Sanchiki. Those players have really found a ton of power here in the late game. If Christopher upgrades this Briar, I think it could be a real nightmare to deal with, as this Smolder also scales throughout the fight. But on the other side, you have the power of both, I think, 4 Chrono and 8 Witchcraft, and that Karma is just going to do a ton of damage. There's a huge amount of CC against the front line of whoever they're fighting against, and it's a real nightmare to deal with as well.
Yeah, I mean, the 8 Witchcraft 2-star Karma, like we said at the beginning, is so difficult to deal with. You have 4 Chrono for the time stop, but I don't know who I would be picking between that board or this board that Christopher has, because this is now you have the Briar 2 for Christopher, you have the Smolder 2, and it's really scary. And I guess we don't have to wait that long to pick, because they're up against each other.
Yeah, the Earthquake coming through in the early stages of the round means that there is going to be a little bit of time for Christopher to start cooking, but Smolder has been CC'd, the rest of the front line is falling, Briar has been fed for a very long time, and she's still standing up against the Witchcraft units, but is Smolder going to start to get the Hex on him? He does. Zillion follows up with a CC, and Christopher's win streak has ended. There's going to be one more round left for them to fight it out, but I don't know if Christopher can deal with Senchiki in this late game.
Duke also got eliminated at the end of that fight by the real control, so we do have to say goodbye to Duke. I thought he was going to be definitely in the top 3 based on the early game, but just wait. It was too long until from the time that when he hit the Briar 2 to when. From like when he had the early Shapeshifter board. Sadly, also we lost Crazy as well. We did not get to see that Jace 4 in action. We did not get to see the craziness, but hopefully we get to see a 4-star 1 cost or 2 cost next game, as Sanchiki is going up against the the real control. And I mean, this Karma, man, she's just destroying everything.
Yeah, I think it gets really difficult because we saw Senshiki pick up a third Witchcraft emblem on one of the carousels in Stage 5. So that really just puts this composition over the top. It means that Karma is going to spread the Hex to the entire board, and that is a really difficult position to play from, right? We saw the real control. They were able to pick up what I believe was the Silver Guard in the Silver Guard charm that gave their entire board crowd control immunity for the start of the fight. And that really did make a difference for a little while, but it wasn't quite enough. And now we see Christopher going up against Senshiki for first place, but Christopher wasn't even able to find a charm in this round. So we have Senshiki really bring all their force to bear against Christopher, and is it going to be enough?
I mean, it's looking right now as if it's going to be enough, because this Briar has sadly not done a lot. But oh wait, the Smolder and the Briar teaming up to defeat the Karma, and Christopher in a turn of events is going to be taking game one right off of Sanchiki's hands. Christopher with that call to chaos, making it happen. The Epoch just bringing it in at the end. We mentioned how he was the first one to level up to 9. We said that he got first choice amongst those five costs, and 2-star Smolder, 2-star Briar. For a minute there, I thought definitely that they were going to be dying towards that Karma, because it certainly looked like that. However, the time stop did not give Sanshiki enough time to just delete those 5 cards that have gotten the upgrades. And congratulations to Christopher.
Yeah, I think Christopher really made the most out of their situation. Started the game with a patient study, really inclined themselves to play around level 8 and level 9, and the Call to Chaos fit very well into that game plan, allowing them to leapfrog even further on that EXP scale. So even though they didn't get to level 10, even though they had a ton of EXP in the bank in the middle of stage 6, it didn't really matter because they were able to find Briar very early on, and they spent a lot of their HP feeding her and turning her into a beast that had the ability to get into the backline, to absorb a ton of crowd control, and to start doing a ton of damage to the backline of the enemy team. We saw that effect take place when Briar found her way onto Karma and really changed that fight for Christopher.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you even saw it there at the end. Briar had that Edge of Night, which I think helped out quite a lot just with that, karma damage. And because Edge of Night sheds all negative effects, it also sheds all of that DOT and that burn from the Morellonomicon. So, smart optimization, very good from Christopher. Uh, but congratulations to Christopher. A little bit of commiserations from Sanshiki, but still, second place in that high roll of a lobby is still very, very good in my opinion. And we are going to be throwing it to a very quick break, but we'll be right back with game two. And we would like to thank our sponsors, Rira and Dogpatch Labs. So grab a drink, stretch your legs, don't go too far, because we'll be back very shortly with game two.